So let me start off this video by saying that I really enjoyed Resident Evil 8. I think it struck that perfect balance between horror and action that Resident Evil 7, in my opinion, never quite got perfect. Now, that's not to say I didn't like Resident Evil 7. I really did enjoy Resident Evil 7. I think it is a great horror game in the first half. I just felt that it kind of lost its steam in the second half. And I just had more fun in Resident Evil 8. I don't know if it's because there was just more boss fights and enemy variety or just more gun variety, but I just felt that I just had more fun in Resident Evil 8, and that's something that I kind of lost with Resident Evil 7 in the second half. Now, I will say there is one thing that kind of annoyed me of Resident Evil 8, and that's actually the purpose of this video, and I didn't even notice it until I was playing about 1/3 of the way through the campaign, and I was looking for the 4 masks in Castle Dimitrescu's, and Lady D, with all her glory and her Wolverine nails, slashes Ethan, and I lose like about a quarter of my health. So I run away from her, and I get into the room, and I decide, I'm still pretty good on health, so I'm not going to waste a first aid. I'm just going to eat an herb and recover about 25% of my health, just like in Resident Evil 7 or any other Resident Evil game. It's at that moment that I noticed, as I opened the case, I can't take a green herb. I can't take a single green herb and just eat it in its pure form and just recover a slight amount of health. I have to combine it to be able to gain health, to use the first aid and to be able to gain health. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have never seen that happen in a Resident Evil game. There is no Resident Evil game where you just can't take an herb. Like in every Resident Evil game, you are able to combine the herbs and make something more powerful like a first aid or a max herb, but you are always able to just take a regular herb and eat it and just recover a small portion of health. I don't think any Resident Evil game has ever denied you to be able to do that. And it's so weird that this is the first Resident Evil game that doesn't do that. And a lot of people didn't even mention this. Like, it's such an important, it's literally like herbs are like one of the most important mechanics in Resident Evil games. So it just shocks me that this is the first game that just doesn't allow you to use an herb. And not only can you not use it, you can't even examine an herb. Like, the herb is not in your inventory, in your case, in your attaché case. It is so weird, because in this game, just like in 7, things are divided into 2 things. Like in Resident Evil 8, you have items that take up space in your case, and they're ingredients that you use to craft items. The herb technically falls under ingredients, so it doesn't come out in your case. So you'll actually never be able to see it. Now, in Resident Evil 7, yes, the herb was an ingredient, but you could still see it occupying space in your inventory. So it's weird they just wouldn't replicate it for this one. In Resident Evil 7, a normal herb recovered about 25% of your health. A first aid recovered 50%, and the extremely potent one recovered like 100% of your health. So it's weird that they just wouldn't do that for Resident Evil 8. Like, it really just blows my mind. So I think I understand the reasoning why they did this. So the case in Resident Evil 8 is based off of Leon's case in Resident Evil 4. And in that game, the herbs take up a 1x2 space on your case. But every herb that you had took up space. So they weren't basically grouped together like bullets or other items. Each herb takes away some space. I guess they just didn't want like all these herbs or all these scrap metals or all these other ingredients taking up space in your case. So that's why none of the ingredients take up space in Resident Evil 8. But like, in my opinion, that's what made inventory management fun. Like, if you didn't want all the herbs to take up space or all your case to be filled with scrap metal or all these other, chemical liquids, then you could just group them together. Like, you could just put that, have one space for herbs and just group them together, just like you do with bullets and other things. And with meats, you do that also with meats in the game. So I don't get why you just couldn't have them be an item in your case. Even if you have 9 herbs, they'll just appear as one herb in your case and just group them together. And then you could probably put a max limit, after 4 or 5 herbs, then you will have to make a second group that takes up space. But that adds so much more to inventory management than you just casting them all aside, all these scrap metals, these liquids, and herbs as ingredients that don't take up space. Now, I don't know if it's my nostalgia or anything, but to me, the way you use herbs in Resident Evil game is always a bit of a strategy. You know, it's never optimal to use an herb in its raw form because it doesn't really recover a lot of health. But that's one of the choices that's presented to the player in Resident Evil games. Do I use the herb now and just recover 20% when I could probably find a liquid or a red herb later and it'll be 100% of my health? But I'm really down on health right now, so I think I should use an herb or maybe just save one for later. Like, all those choices are always what made Resident Evil games, you know, good, because you're scavenging. You always don't have, especially in harder difficulties, you don't have the ammunition or you don't have the health items to continue. Do I use this now or do I save it? It's kind of very weird that they would just take all that away. Like, there's not even different types of first aids in Resident Evil 8. Like, at least in Resident Evil 7, there was a first aid and a potent first aid. So one that recovered 50% and one that recovered 100%. So there's different variety of health items. And that's always been the case because there's usually more than one herb. There's always green, there's red, sometimes there's blue, sometimes there's yellow. But there's always that choice. Resident Evil 8 just went away with all of that. There's actually only a single health item in Resident Evil 8, and that's first aids. That's it. There's like nothing else. So it's really weird, like, they would do that. And it's weird that I never heard, like, no reviewer even mention that. Like it's such a core thing to Resident Evil, and they just did away with it. So it kind of disappointed me a little bit. Now, again, I'm really nitpicking here because, like I said, I went to like 1/3 of the game and I didn't even notice that. But it still kind of hurt the Resident Evil fan in me that they would just eliminate this and not even like offer a substitute or something. Like, you could create different first aids, like a potent one, like a not potent one, and they just did away with all of it. So it's kind of weird. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to rant about that because I found no videos on the internet about people talking about that. So I just found it really weird that one of the most important mechanics in Resident Evil that's always been there was just gone in Resident Evil 8, and like no one mentioned it. So yeah, this video is just like just to have on the internet one video of someone ranting about that, because that is unacceptable that no one's even mentioned that. Anyways, guys, thanks for hearing me rant. See you guys later.
Damn! I don't want to die.
I'm sick of bugs.